good, me go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, so I thought that now would be a good time to help students who are still undeclared in a major start the self-reflection process um, to help start students on the path to choosing a major. And I'm so thankful to have Kenny Gonzalez here. He's a career counselor with Skyline, so he'll be giving a presentation to give you advice on how to start the process for choosing a major. And then after Kenny's presentation, we'll do an activity, a personal assessment activity altogether. So yeah, and as Brian's saying in the chat, we will be recording the presentation portion. So wanted to give you that heads up. So without further ado, I can go ahead and give the floor to Kenny here.
I start first? Okay. I was going to let you start first, but okay, I'll go first. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So thanks everyone. And I know it's being recorded, so we'll assume that there's other folks that have never seen the presentation and they're gonna be here for the first time. So my name is Kenny Gonzalez. I'm one of the career counselors, and a little bit about me is that I was a former Skyline College student, while some of the buildings that are there weren't even there. And eventually I went on and got a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree as a therapist. But when I was completing my training, my clinical training at the College of San Mateo, was ready to enter that career, I felt that I wasn't ready. I felt that I was too young, didn't have enough experience, and my boss at the time offered me a job as an academic counselor. And I absolutely fell in love with the academic counseling piece. And I did that for over 2 decades. And then recently, what I've done is I switched over to career. And one of the reasons that I switched over to career is because um, we're seeing students more and more taking longer to complete their educational goal, taking excess units, and taking courses that they really don't know, they really don't count towards their end goal. Um, if you ask me for my personal opinion, is probably twofold. One is there's information nowadays on the web-based searches that tell you these are the top 10 paying careers, and then all of a sudden you decide, oh, that sounds great, and that's what I want to do, without really doing much of the behind the scenes to figure out if this is the right fit for you. I think that's one factor. Another factor is that we live in an area that has a very high cost of living. And so there's almost this really big pressure to figure out your career and enter the workforce as soon as possible. And so what tends to happen, in my opinion, is that students kind of ping pong into changing different majors, from psychology to business to criminal justice to communications, or whatever your pathway is. And I'm here to change that. And the way that I'm going to change it is by getting something going that is going to be called the Explorers Pilot that we are doing for this particular year. And the pilot, as it says in the bottom, is helping students discover, explore, define, and plan their major and career options. So I'll get into a little bit deeper into that. But first, now that you know a little bit about my background, I want to talk about the difference between what a career counselor does and what an academic counselor does. A career counselor, it's a little bit different. While the academic counselor is looking at coursework that corresponds to your major, helping with certificates, associate's degree, or transfer and transfer requirement, transfer application, connecting you to resources such as the library, the learning center, special programs like EOPS, TRIO, financial aid, and of course being there for support, help and support. As a career counselor, my help and support comes in a different way. It comes in focusing in on getting clarity around what your major and career goals may particularly be. Um, Couple of things that I'll throw out there as far as statistics go is that more than 50% of the jobs in the year 2030 haven't been created just yet. Um, and so think about things like I'm wearing an Apple Watch. And so Apple Watches were not around 10 years ago. We're doing things through Zoom. Zoom's only been around for 9 years. Think about the social justice issues that have been brought forth because of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. Matter of fact, just yesterday, I was informed that they're creating a new general education category for transfer. There's going to um, have an ethnic studies component in the state of California. Of course, we're leading the way in these kinds of things. So those kinds of careers are being developed. Think about uh, the environmental issues that are happening around global warming and ocean and skies and all kinds of stuff like that. Um, think about the political stuff that's going on today. And I can go on and on and on and on about careers that are being created as we speak. Probably the biggest one that is going to define many of the folks that are in this space is COVID-19. And so COVID is going to change many, many different things, whether it has to do with politics or business or healthcare. Um, think about the creation of telehealth that's being done right now. So how is that going to take over? So again, many, many careers are being created as we speak. And so one of the things that I do is help students develop some kind of clarity on major and career goals with the notion in mind that some of these careers are being built right now. And so how do we do that? And there's 4 components down here that you can see. One is understanding the benchmarks. And the benchmarks are discover, explore, decide, and plan. I'll go into details a little bit with each one and what they mean. When I meet with a student, it's really creating personalized strategies um, that are tailored to you. So the way that I work with an 18-year-old is going to be very different than a returning adult and the challenges that they may have coming and figuring out a career. The classes are still the same, right? If you want to be an electrical engineer, the classes are all the same, but the strategies around somebody who's 18 is going to be very different than somebody who's 35 with a family and working full time. And that brings me to number 3, figuring out the time and effort. It's important to understand that career exploration takes both time and effort. For some folks, they may have a lot of time where they're watching Netflix or playing video games. So the time is there, but maybe the effort is not there. And so we work on putting in the effort. Other other students may not have the time because they're working full time, they have a family, and so we work on very concrete efforts that are tailored to them. And lastly, understand that this process, you don't have to do it alone and where to go get help. So whether it's folks in here in the STEM Center that provide that kind of support, the academic counseling, the career counseling, but but also beyond the walls of Skyline College, like who on the outside is going to support you in the form of mentors or folks that you look up to. One of the things that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a link on the chat that has a quick form. It'll take you 10 seconds to fill it out if you want to be part of this pilot. But when you fill out the form, I'm gonna reach out to you to schedule an initial career appointment. And what I do there is I try and figure out where you are in the benchmarks. Most folks are in the discover and explore, and I'll get to those in a second. Determine if you're a high, medium, or low support. So somebody who may be labeled as high may be that single mom who wants to return to school, who has children, is working full time. That would be a high need. student. And a low need student may be somebody that they really know what they want to do. They're pretty much on track. They got all the support necessary. And I'm just there to provide additional resources. Um, and one of the things that I do in the initial counseling appointment is come up with some SMART goals. In my opinion, if we're not creating SMART goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, then we're not really moving forward in creating a clarity around major and career goals. The career benchmarks do have kind of a stepping order. So you got to start with the discover. And in the discover, it's really about understanding your skills, interests, abilities, values, personality traits. All of these things impact your career. And so for some students, it's just figuring that out, like what makes you tick? Who are you exactly? Another piece is shedding the noise. These could be external factors that are persuading your decision making. I have a student right now who is a declared nursing major. However, uh, their passion is dance. And so as we kind of shed those external factors and that is persuading him to go into nursing, we really realize that passion in him is dance. So we're pursuing and leaning in that direction. Um, there's internal negative thought patterns as well as part of what I like to call the noise. And those thought patterns come in the form of self-doubt. So I'm not good at math. I'm working with a student right now who wants to be in occupational therapy. All the career assessments that we've done says, yeah, allied health, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of lining up perfectly, but it's struggling in the chemistry and wants to now give up the entire career because of the chemistry. So one of the things that I work with that particular student, it's about developing grit and persistence and knowing where to go to get help because they're probably on the right career path. They just got to get over that hump. And so connecting him to like-minded people, he might find out that they also had times where they doubted themselves and they thought about giving up, and it was a particular instructor or course or semester that they had to just get through in order to do that. So again, in the discover benchmarks is skills, interests, abilities, values, personality traits, how they contribute to their career, and beginning to shed the noise, external factors and internal factors. The ways that we do this is when it comes to the personal attributes, we use several career assessments, whether it's My Major, Road Trip Nation, Eureka, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or Strong Interest Inventory. These particular assessments provide a level of clarity to see um, into the student's personality traits. And then we examine the noise, we bring awareness, acceptance, and action. So the student that wants to change from nursing into dance, you know, first thing is awareness. This is what really you want to do. Acceptance that you're still living under your parents' house and it's going to be rather challenging um, to hear that external noise and create self-doubt. And then the action. So like, what can you do? One of the things that we're doing with that student is connect with like-minded people. Um, so that's what we do in the Discover benchmark. In the Explore, this is my favorite because now we've shed the noise. We know who the student is. We know their personality. So now what I'm trying to do here is to link students to linking their potential careers to their personality traits. Um, we are generating excitement around their own interest, not somebody else's interest. We're connecting with like-minded people, and we're creating a new narrative for themselves and really becoming biased towards curiosity. So again, all of these things are done with SMART goals in mind. So it could be something as soon as we're done with this career counseling session, I want you to spend 10 minutes, 10 quiet minutes writing down some SMART goals, uh, generating a power hour let's say, and then they come up with a time, 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock, right before we go to bed. And that power hour is all about generating interest in particular careers, uh, being biased towards curiosity, linking with like-minded people. So they're very specific SMART goals around that. And here they are. So it could be things like creating a LinkedIn profile and doing some social networking. One of the things that I'm really big on is getting away from online research. You know, you can spend 8, 10 hours in front of a computer just researching, and instead get away from that, but connect with like-minded people. Set up informational interviews that are with people that are doing what you want to do, so they can provide a much deeper level of inspiration and clarity for you. And one of the things that I'm excited to do in spring is going to be something called Career Labs. And in the Career Labs is when students take part in a challenge. So, for example, I'm seeing more and more students that are interested in coding and video games and video game design. So it's kind of bringing students that are like-minded into this career lab. And then since we talked about SMART goals, maybe generating a 30-day challenge where the students may work together to develop an app or find different connecting different resources outside of the college, um, to kind of get them inspired and generate excitement. So I'm excited to be developing these career labs, and we'll certainly work with the coordinators in the STEM Center to come up with one for you guys. Eventually, we move into the decide, and one analogy that I use in the decide is um, around dating. You normally you don't marry the first person that you kissed or you went out on the date with. Certainly, some folks do. They used to do it a lot in the 40s and the 50s before going off to war, but not so much nowadays. Um, and there are certainly arranged marriages that kind of worked out, but for the most of us, um, we like to find compatibility. Do we communicate well? Are we physically attractive? Can you depend on them? Can you be reliable? Do you want to build a family and children and feel safe with this person? You wouldn't know that after a first date. So career exploration, because it's something that you're going to embark for the rest of your life, you got to put the time and the effort. So in the decide benchmarks, students can now make independent choices out. You know, the parents' voices are quieted down. Society's voice is quieted down. Um, you've narrowed your choices because you've done the uncomfortable work. You demonstrate confidence, and you're starting to demonstrate beyond Skyline College. And again, all of these benchmarks are very personalized as far as like creating SMART goals around all of these. Last but not least, we move into the plan benchmark, and that's when you work with your educational counselor, your academic counselor, to develop that comprehensive plan with detailed notes and critical deadlines. And you absolutely know when it's going to be your last day at Skyline. You know, it's not a 1 year plan, it's not a 1 semester plan. You know where you're going. So this is a comprehensive plan. And students are able to do that because they've done the uncomfortable work of discovering themselves, exploring different possibility, and deciding because they've had different choices to choose from, and they say, this is what I want to do. Okay. Um, Here's our website. On the left-hand side, there's something that says referral form, so you can do a self-referral, and we can reach out to you. But what I'm going to do is in the chat, I'm going to put a link uh, to our pilot form. So if you're interested in setting up an appointment with me, you're more than welcome to reach out. So I'm going to stop there and take questions.
Kenny,
Yes,
would you mind sharing your PowerPoint with us?
absolutely.
That'll be
Absolutely.
great. Let me write down my, um,
I'll send it to you, Lopez. I think Brian, I'll send it to all three of you.
oh, okay,
So
great.
no problem.
So Lopez Devereaux, let me write it down just in case.
Okay, we'll do.
I have a question.
Go for it.
I'm just curious, like your advice on following your true instincts when like money is a factor. So I think about the student who like could become a nurse or could follow their dance passion. And I
Yes.
can relate to that because I'm a singer.
Yes.
So I just like wonder if you have any advice on like how to get rid of the noise and follow your passion, especially when you're like an artistic type. Like me.
It's really, really, really difficult because again, the first thing you have to do is take a look at the the expectations on the outside. Those things influence you beyond recognition. Um, I was just starting to write some notes for myself, um, and you know, you gotta have kind of critical awareness, right? Critical awareness that society puts a shame kind of blanket around it. And so when you have this shame about, I don't know if this is the right thing, you got to take a look at where the triggers are coming from. And again, this is from years of experience in my psycho background, but it's almost like a self check and say, okay, that's coming from my family. That's coming from uh, the media, etc. Um, um, to kind of tie into this particular student, uh, and we're going to do some kind of documentary video so I can showcase him. So I don't think I'm disclosing too much, but um, we spent some time in the discover phase where he got to know himself. It's like, I really don't want to do nursing. Where's that coming from? Okay, the external pressures. What do you want to do? Well, I'm all about dance since I was little. Okay, so so what do you think you could potentially do with dance? You know, dance production, dance filmography, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That stuff. And then so again, kind of awareness, acceptance, and action. Awareness. That stuff is not happening in San Bruno. It's happening in places like Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. Okay, so the challenge around him, if you look in the explore kind of benchmark, it's about connecting with like-minded people and challenging them to do an informational interview. He did that. He set up the informational interview, and I thought it was going to be through Zoom. Well, lo and behold, he got invited to come down to LA to look at the studio and the production. He was there this past weekend. I met with him yesterday, and he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's like, I want to give up nursing now. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. Yeah, that's it, you know? And so the conversation really focused more on like that noise. And the noise came from this opportunity. The window is like this tiny. This opportunity doesn't just drop out of the sky. It dropped in your lap because you did the uncomfortable work, because you practice rigorous authenticity with yourself and what's your true nature. You did the uncomfortable work. So the next piece is, are you willing to surrender the outcomes? Just surrender and take that path and see where it leads. Now, if it leads back to Skyline and some kind of allied health program, that's okay. But again, having done this for many, many years, I can't tell you how many hundreds of returning adults I have seen over the years that say, I regret not doing that when I was younger. So don't be one of those folks. And so, you know, and I one of the things that I ended my session with is, I want you to journal everything that's happening, because you might be developing a best-selling book. Now, look at all the different information that he's getting from the individual that he met down in LA, and the messages that he's hearing from me. compared to the messages that he's been hearing from others that say nursing is what you should be doing. Um, I'll give you one more story. Um, Working with a young lady who is um, it's it's has labeled herself as a pre-med major, and it's because of the family pressures that um, I'm gonna. I'll get to your question in a second, Maggie. Um, here's a student that all the family is in the allied health field,
Mm.
and of course, you got to do that. Why wouldn't you do that? And so, and for her, she started out her counseling session. It's like, I don't know what I want to do because I'm dumb and I'm stupid. And so I wanted to find out where that noise was coming from, and that noise was coming from those external factors. But she's never been good at math. She's never been good at science. So what are you good at? Um, she started to pull out similar images of the pictures that Maggie has and Brian has. And I was like, whoa, that's super cool. I mean, like really beautiful drawings. It's like, yeah, but there's no career in this. There's because she doesn't know the possibilities, right? So we talked about Pixar Studios in Emeryville and what they do, and Lucasfilm in the Presidio and what they do. Um, there's a Cartoon Network channel for crying out loud, you know? So there's all kinds of possibilities when it comes to uh, going in that direction. So it kind of goes back to the same pieces that I was sharing is that are you willing to practice rigorous authenticity with yourself and really be who you truly want to be? And you are an artist. Do the uncomfortable work that's necessary to figure out what your pathway is going to be. And truly, truly surrender the outcomes. Because nobody has a crystal ball with what's going to happen. I can show you possibilities, but I can't say if you do this, you're going to get a job at Pixar. That's not how things work. And you may line yourself up with doing something and something else opens up. So I don't know if that answers your questions or not, but
Oh yeah, it did.
but it really is to discover who you are and explore the different possibilities. And that's why I said most students are in those kinds of things when they're just questioning where they are. So Maggie asked, do you have a suggestion or tip finding a solid career for a high school student? Um, it's no different if I'm dealing with a high school student or somebody in their 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s. To me, it's the same process, but the difference is that somebody in high school may have a little bit more time to do these kinds of things because the parents may say, I just want you to focus on doing this as your like full-time thing. And so sometimes what I try and do with high school students is to really figure out where the effort is coming from, and those SMART goals are so critical. An example that I do is, like I said, 10 minutes to kind of outline these SMART goals and then develop a power hour. And that's your power hour. You know, put on your best pumping up tunes through your Spotify or whatever it is. But during that time, that's when you're getting super jazzed and excited about the endless possibilities, knowing that, you know, many careers don't even exist today. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a sophomore, Maggie. Um, it really doesn't. It's all the same. You know, start to get to know who you are. And if you don't know, we certainly have a bunch of career assessments that you could potentially take uh, to kind of open up those possibilities. Just curiosity. Be biased towards curiosity is what I would say.
It's
Okay.
very
Any other question?
it's very important what you do. You know, I'm so thankful to hear that there are professionals out there doing what it needs to be done, which is trying to get the best out of people. And the best out of people, it's not just going for the money, but using their full potential. And that can be done with things they like, they really are interested in, and they have the skill, like the main skills for, and they love doing.
Yeah.
So that is great. That's really bringing out the best of people.
Absolutely. And then I often talk about, I throw out, I'm really a big data guy. And so I throw out statistics that say 85% of Americans are not engaged at work.
Yeah.
That's a gigantic number.
That's
85.
just sad.
And they're so miserable because imagine doing something you don't like every day of your life.
Yes. And I see
Yeah.
those students because they come back and say, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I need to change. And so,
Yes.
so my focus is not having a pity party and a miserable kind of potluck, you know. What I am really interested in is, and what I'm super curious about is, what is the 15% doing that's different? And so I like to connect with those people and get creative and innovative and in problem solving, because what I have found is that the 15%, it's all about being creative, being innovative. You know, these challenges around problem solving, they eat that stuff up for breakfast. You know, throw me more problems because I don't have the answers, but I want to be able to create solutions. So I like surrounding myself with those kinds of people like you guys that are doing some really cool, creative, and innovative stuff. To look at the problems, you know, and coming up with solutions. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, be that 15% for sure.
I feel like part of the 15% working at the STEM Center at Skyline.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Kenny. That was
Thank you,
really
Kenny.
informative. And we'll post the recording on our YouTube channel so students can benefit from
Excellent.
your presentation. Thank you so much.
And then, like I said, there's I emailed you the form, so that's one way that we directly connect with students and do some follow-ups, and and then I put it in the chat, and there was something else. Oh, and then I'll send you the PowerPoint.
Perfect.
Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank
Kenny.
you. You too, Kenny.